What's up, faithful? It's another episode of the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast. It is a victory Friday, Al. The 49ers kicked the shit out of the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football, and we are going to break it down, talk about what we liked. I think it's going to be hard to find things that we didn't like, at least once the game was over. But I know it was a late night for you. It's Thursday Night Football. How did you enjoy watching that game?
13 straight regular season wins for this team. The way I felt watching that game was I felt like it was never in doubt. When it was 17-12, I rolled my eyes. I was like, all right, so what? They're going to come down and score. They're going to win this game by 2-3 scores. It's just how confident I feel in a team that scored 30 or more points in the last 6 regular season games, which is the longest streak in the last 10 years. They've scored 30 or more in 9 of the last 12. They've outscored their opponents 90-42 over the first 3 games. And they're actually the third team to start 3-0 in NFL history while scoring the same number of points in each game. They scored 30 in each game. The 07 Patriots and the 1936 Steelers are the other 2 teams to do that. So this has become for me, Brian, this team is just like I've been saying it. They're better than most teams. I felt like this was like watching, I don't know, an SEC team play some random other college team where the score is close and you're like, all right, it's just a matter of time before they're up by 3. That's 3 scores. That's the way I felt. The Giants were hanging in there. It was a Thursday night game. The Niners were a little sloppy in the beginning and at times, but it's Thursday. That stuff happens. But there's just not enough talent on the Giants to keep up with the Niners. There's just not. And that's the way I felt during the entire game. I enjoyed it thoroughly because I felt the entire time there is no way this other team can compete with the 49ers.
Yeah. And, after the game, I tweeted this out and I still believe this. And I still, I don't even feel like this is a homer take, which I was accused of when I tweeted it. But, we're going to want to compare this game and this result against the Cowboys and the Giants result from week 1, right? Because again, we look at 2 teams that are really standing in the way of the 49ers and representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, and that's the Eagles and the Cowboys. And I would say that the Cowboys right now look better or at least scare me more than the Eagles currently do. Now that could change as the season progresses. We know about Dallas. We know they lost Trayvon Diggs for the season to a torn ACL yesterday in practice, which is definitely going to affect that defense. But, you look at this game, the Cowboys played the Giants in week 1. They had weeks to prepare, technically had a whole offseason to prepare, and they beat that team 40-0. They did not allow the Giants into the end zone or to kick a field goal. But of those 40 points, 14 of them came from defense and special teams. They had a pick 6 and they had a blocked field goal for a touchdown. So you could argue that the 49ers offense scored 30 against the New York Giants defense, whereas the Cowboys offense scored 26, meaning that the 49ers offense performed better against this Giants defense, and that the Cowboys defense performed better than the 49ers did, largely because the Giants had Saquon Barkley and left tackle Andrew Thomas for that week 1 game. They did not have that against the 49ers. But I think when you compare games like that, there is context to be had. And the context is this: week 1 versus a Thursday night game after 2 straight road games and a Thursday night game after a hard-fought victory over a division rival on Sunday. And so what I said was, I don't want to take anything away from that Dallas performance. It was very impressive. But I think this performance from the 49ers was equally as dominant. Right? Is 40-0 look prettier than 30-12? Sure. And I won't argue that. But I just think with context, this was equally as dominating as the Cowboys. And I think it's still the Cowboys and the 49ers as the class of the NFC. You could argue right now the class of the NFL. And I don't think there was anything to take away from this game that would make you feel like the 49ers aren't prohibitive favorites to make it to the Super Bowl this season.
Dude, the 49ers had more yards after the catch than the Giants had total yards. The
Yes.
Niners had 201 yards after the catch. The Giants had 150 total yards. They outgained the Giants 441 to 150 in this game. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I know the score was close at the beginning of the second half, but this game never felt in doubt to me. Not for a second. Niners were 9 for 16 on third downs. Their defensive line, and I know you want to talk later a little bit about adjustments that they made in the second half. Their defensive line absolutely dominated. The PFF grades, Hargrave was 93. He had 5 pressures. Bosa was 92.8. He had 6 pressures. Each of them had a sack apiece. Eric Armstead, 91.5 rating. He had 3 pressures. Javon Kinlaw added 4 pressures. They were just absolutely dominant up front. The Giants had no chance to me in this game. No chance. And also, Brian, I like, I'm a Purdy guy. I'm a big Brock Purdy guy. And he started out slow in this game, for sure. The first drive, definitely, he was off. There were almost a couple throws that got intercepted. He just looked really uncomfortable in the first drive. And he started out the game 5 for 11, 46% with 6.2 yards per attempt. He finished the game 20 of 26, 77% and 9.3 yards per attempt. And I really thought after he looked uncomfortable initially, he settled in. Both of the TD throws were dimes, absolute dimes on both of them. Great throws. But the reason why I think he was maybe jittery or off or whatever you want to call it early is because he was under so much pressure. The Giants were blitzing constantly. They blitzed on 33 of his 39 dropbacks, according to Next Gen Sports, which was, Next Gen Stats. So 84.6% they blitzed, which is the highest blitz rate in the Next Gen Stats era. So they were blitzing like crazy. And Purdy adjusted. He got the last 10 seasons. Yeah. So Purdy adjusted. He was getting the ball out in a career high or whatever, career fastest 2.34 seconds. So he was adjusting, getting the ball out quickly. He was 20 of 31 for 247 yards and 2 TDs versus the blitz. He continues to absolutely excel on intermediate throws. He was 6 for 7 last night on throws between 10 and 19 yards for 115 yards and a touchdown. And for the season, Brian, on intermediate throws, 10 to 19 yards, he's 19 for 21, 324 yards, 2 TDs, and 150.5 rating. And again, last night, I tweeted out real early, like, first half, I didn't think he played particularly well to start the game, but he really settled in. And it's Thursday night. Thursday night games are wonky. He was getting a lot of pressure. Like, again, I feel like people who criticize Purdy or just some of the Niner quarterback play in general, I guess, they don't watch other teams. Did anybody watch the Monday night games? Those quarterbacks were awful. Those offenses were awful. Deshaun Watson and Kenny Pickett were terrible in that game. Bryce Young looks like the game's moving too fast for him. Derek Carr didn't play well. There's a lot of bad quarterback play in the league. Yeah. Brock Purdy had his ups and downs in this game, but he settles in. He makes adjustments. He's a special kind of player. So it's not always going to look absolutely perfect, but the guy adjusts, man. He is the 3rd youngest player to throw for 700 plus yards and with 4 TDs and 0 interceptions over his first 3 games. The other 2 are Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. There's the only 2 who were younger, I should say.
And that was during Lamar Jackson's. That was during Lamar Jackson's MVP year.
Their MVP years. So Purdy, in going back to that Dolphins game when he came in and through the playoffs, he has 20 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. I'm pretty sure that's pretty good. I think that's good, 20 and 3. So are there going to be ups and downs with him? Sure. He's a young quarterback. Absolutely going to be ups and downs. He's 23 years old. But the long and the short of it is, man, the Niners have their starter. And last night was another night for me where he starts the game and I'm like, oh, he didn't look good. Like, is this going to spiral out of control? Is he going to throw some bad picks? And he almost had a couple on that first drive, but then he settled in. He adjusted. And that's all you can ask for. And again, I was encouraged with him once again. And just I try to stay off the social media with stuff, but you do see it and you do hear it. There was a lot of people like knocking him. I just keep thinking, do people watch other games? Do you only watch highlights of Josh Allen and be like, oh, that dude does that every play? It's not like that. People ebb and flow throughout a game. People adjust. Yeah. You have bad drives. You have good drives. It's human. They're human beings. So I'm a big Purdy guy. I like what I see, and I like the adjustments he made in this game.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy yesterday prior to the game. And then I was talking with Ryan Hensley, another content creator who covers the 49ers, has a YouTube show. I was on with him this morning. And, talking about this idea of how we view quarterbacks, right? And how we are so desperate, right, as fans to rank these quarterbacks in hierarchies and all of these things. And we are so desperate to isolate their performance outside of the context of their team so that we can somehow determine which one of these guys is the best. And ultimately, in my mind, I'm like, why do we do this? Like, what is the point of this? And I've heard questions like, if you drop Brock Purdy on X team, is he going to be good? And I'm starting to feel like the more he plays, the more that answer becomes yes. But currently, we still don't know that answer. But here's the thing. I don't know if you guys know this. Brock Purdy is the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. So the way that he plays quarterback matters for the 49ers and the system they run, not the Bills in the system they run, or the Patriots in the system they run, or put whatever team you want to put in there. And I think that is the context that is missing when we try and make this grandiose statement about Brock Purdy as a quarterback, make a value judgment on who he is, and rank him against other QBs. And it's like, he's not asked to do the things that Patrick Mahomes is asked to do. He's asked to do the things that Kyle Shanahan asks him to do. And you know what? He does it really, really, really well. Like, really well. And I think I've always said that up to this point, Brock Purdy's best asset is what's on his shoulders. And I still believe that. And it's not just what's on his shoulders, it's what's between his ears as well. And that not only means his football IQ, his ability to, digest the playbook. He already operates this offense with an institutional level knowledge that is very impressive for how young he is and how little time he's been in the league and with the team. But not only that, it's his unflappability. It's his unflappability in big moments. He doesn't shrink. He doesn't shrink in prime time. He doesn't shrink. He didn't shrink in the playoffs. He didn't shrink on Thursday night in Seattle with the division on the line and a broken rib, right? No moment is too big for him. But not only that, he's unflappable when his play is poor. And that first drive, it was. He threw 2 balls on that first drive that should have been intercepted. One was broken up by George Kittle, and I absolutely loved that Kittle broke that up and then did the DB seatbelt celebration that a lot of DBs do when they get pass breakups. I was like, God, I love George Kittle.
He's great. He's great.
He's so great. And then the other one too, I believe it was Debo in the end zone that again should or could have been intercepted. And then I think there was one other ball maybe on the second drive that again could have been the ball that was tipped up. Again, not his fault, not Purdy's fault. That ball hit Debo in the hands, but the DB had his hand there at the same time. It popped up. Ronnie Bell got it, which, by the way, Ronnie Bell, shout out Ronnie Bell, loved the game that he had. Love him as a player. Love that he's on the team. But so there were three turnover-worthy plays, and then a couple missed throws, right? And you can attribute that to a couple things, but I think it's this. Again, he was blitzed on 84.6% of his throws. And he started 5 of 14 against that. And you would think to yourself, man, if you're a quarterback and they're just bringing pressure after pressure after pressure, and you are less than 50% on your throws, that can get in your head. And for Brock Purdy, it didn't, because he started 5 of 14 and then ended 20 of 23 against the blitz. Like, again, just unflappable, even when his play is down. And that's, I think, you can't teach that. You can't, I want to argue it'd be hard to scout that. because I was thinking the other day, right? There are going to be people who are going to try to find the next Brock Purdy. And what is that going to look like? And honestly, I don't know that you can. And I don't know that you can because just like you're trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes, what Patrick Mahomes does is more than just the acrobatic throws and things like that. It is between his ears, just like it is for Brock Purdy. And so, again, is he the most physically gifted quarterback? No, he is not. But what he is a massive upgrade over the guy that operated this offense really well from 2019 until last season in Jimmy Garoppolo. He plays very similarly to Jimmy Garoppolo, except one, he's willing to attack deeper in the field. He's got more moxie than Jimmy Garoppolo does. He makes better decisions than Jimmy Garoppolo does. He takes care of the ball better. And he has better pocket awareness and escapability than Jimmy Garoppolo. And when I think about escapability, the play that comes to mind is that again, he threw some dimes in this game. The corner out to Debo for a touchdown, very similar to that throw to Aiyuk, beautiful throw. The throw to Ronnie Bell for the touchdown, a beautiful throw. The throw to Christian McCaffrey that he dropped for a touchdown was a beautiful throw.
How many 7th round QBs are throwing TD passes to 7th round rookie receivers in the second quarter or whatever it was of an NFL game? It's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. And that's the first thing I thought about when he threw that. I'm like, that was just 2 7th rounders making plays like that. Yeah. This team, what they do in late rounds is unbelievable.
Yeah. So, but the throw that I think was almost most impressive, and again, talks about his pocket awareness, is that throw to George Kittle, where it was an out route and pressure was coming from his right side, and Purdy sidestepped to the left like 3 steps to give himself like half a second, and then layered a beautiful throw over the intermediate defender and right into George Kittle's hands for a first down. And I just thought to myself, this kid, I mean, he's the real deal, guys. Like, it's been 11 games. I'm not ready to, I'm not ready to just be like crown him and whatnot, but I think he's the real deal. And I think it would be very difficult to be intellectually honest if you're ranking Brock Purdy and rank him anywhere lower than between 10 and 15 when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL right now in 2023.
Yeah, I looked at it the other day, and I think the lowest you could maybe have him is 15. And again, everybody go look at QBs. Maybe we could do the exercise. We won't do it this show, but maybe we could do it another show. There just aren't, do you like Cousins more than him? Do you like Goff more than him? Do some people maybe like Geno Smith, the way Geno Smith is playing more than him right now? I personally don't like Geno Smith more than Purdy. Yeah. But you can make arguments for Cousins and Goff. Those guys are all in like the 12 to 15 range, I would say. But that's about where I think he is. And he's better than half the league. There's no doubt about that right now. There really isn't. Like you said, it's the moxie. It's the way he rebounds. So people are going to nitpick. People want to be right. People want to have their takes. But the proof, like you said, is on the field. It really is. And okay, well, yeah, the Niners have stars everywhere. Kyle Shanahan calls great games. Well, they haven't done this previous to him. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't put up numbers like this. The games didn't look this way with Garoppolo. They never did. And 2 of the 4 of them didn't look this way with McCaffrey. Yeah, McCaffrey makes a huge difference. But 2 of the 4 that Jimmy had with McCaffrey didn't look this way. And I'm glad they played against the Chargers and the Saints, who have really good defenses. Well, Purdy's done this against good defenses too. The Steelers have a good defense. The Commanders have a good defense last year. He's done it too. So, and we've also seen him in big games in the playoffs go in and play well. Again, that Dallas game to me was a heavyweight fight where he didn't have his best stuff, and he still made plays. He still made the plays he needed to win. So the guy's got 2 playoff wins under his belt. He's playoff tested. He's battle tested. We're 11 games into this right now. It is stop nitpicking. And if you're a 49ers fan and you're trying to nitpick this, enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride. And if he plays poorly at times, he's going to play poorly. He's probably going to have a few shit games this year. It's going to happen. Happens 100%. To everybody. So enjoy that.
I liked this stat from Matt Mayoko last night. Since his last interception, including the postseason, Brock Purdy is 125 of 190 for 1,636 yards with 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a passer rating of 110.3.
Well, I mean, wow, that's crazy. Crazy.
Like, the proof is in the pudding, right? Interceptions.
Again,
Yeah.
watch other games. There are almost interceptions every week.
Yeah.
Like we those don't count. Joe Montana almost threw an interception in Super Bowl 23. Nobody talks about that. It went through the guy's hands in the end zone. We don't. That's part of the game. That's part of the game. It's how you rebound from stuff like that. So, and you mentioned Kittle too, Brian. Kittle always shows up in prime time. He can just. It seems like whenever he needs to turn it on, he can turn it on. And we talked about last show what a good teammate he is to stay in the background because the guy is a superstar and he's he lets Aiyuk and Debo. Not that he lets them, but he doesn't complain, right? Like
Right.
he's just going to play his role. He's going to block. He gets 3 targets in the game, that's what he gets. But without Aiyuk in this game, he was involved and he had 7 catches for 90 yards, 49 yak yards. Looked like George Kittle. I thought he was going to get a touchdown last night. I actually had some bets on that actually that it didn't come through for me. But I thought the anytime touchdown for George Kittle was a great bet last night, but it didn't happen for me.
Agreed.
But, it was a great game for him. And Debo again, it just had a phenomenal game. And Debo without Aiyuk now, Debo had 129 yards last night receiving. He played one other game without Aiyuk, which was week 12 of 2020, and he had 11 catches for 133 yards. So again, he steps up when he needs to as well. And the 2 games where Aiyuk was in the doghouse in 2021, Debo was 9 for 189 with a touchdown and 6 for 93. So when they need Debo to be the focal point at wide receiver, he does it as well. And Debo looks a little bit more like 2021 Debo to me.
He does. Yeah. And, I said this, I think probably in the first half. And I still agree with it to a certain extent. But I really felt like that first half and perhaps Brock Purdy's performance in the first half had a lot to do with Brandon Aiyuk not being on the field. I think Debo is awesome. I mean, he is an incredible football player, but Brandon Aiyuk is an incredible wide receiver. Brandon Aiyuk is a wide receiver 1 on any other team in the NFL outside of maybe Minnesota and Miami and Cincinnati. Like I would say those are the 3 teams that he's probably not wide receiver 1. But any other team, I would argue, could probably you could probably say he's wide receiver 1. And part of that is because he is the guy on the team, on this 49ers team, who consistently can beat press coverage, man coverage, can get open, and I think that was part of the struggle was to begin the game, the Giants, again, blitzing their ass off, and the 49ers pass catchers weren't winning their routes. And so you saw Kyle Shanahan start to switch tactics and start to go with the quick passing game, with the wheel routes, with the bubble screens and things like that, both to get Purdy back in rhythm, but also to counteract that just heavy blitz. And then the Giants adjusted and said, okay, well, if you're going to do that, we're still going to blitz, but now we're going to take away, those, the wide plays, right? The wheel routes, the bubble screens. And that's when you started seeing them attack the middle of the field again, because essentially, it's pick your poison with this team. And I think in the first half, I think Aiyuk would have feasted if he was in the game. But I think you also saw why he is important to this team. And if Aiyuk was gone for an extended amount of time, I think this team would eventually be okay. They'd figure out a way to adapt. But I think he's a large part of this offense that I think goes unnoticed sometimes. And, I had tweeted out earlier this week, I did a poll and I said, because I was listening to, I was just listening to another, I think it was the Athletic NFL Football Show with Robert Mays and Nate Tice. It's one of my favorites. But they were talking about the Panthers and how the Panthers wide receiver core is just very bad. And it's going to really limit Bryce Young's growth potential, especially this season. And so I tweeted out and I just put a poll and I said, hypothetical trade. Who would be down for Brandon Aiyuk to Carolina for Brian Burns, and then using the money you would use to extend Aiyuk to then extend Burns? And overwhelmingly, I got a no way, because I said hell yes or hell no. Those were your 2 options.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after last night, I don't know. I think I agree with the no. I don't know that I would do that now, because I think last night gave me a glimpse to what this offense would look like without Brandon Aiyuk. And I think going against a better defense might have done, they might have lost that game last night. Not that the Giants defense is bottom of the league, and Wink Martindale's a tremendous defensive coordinator. And, he got in Purdy's head early. And I think, Purdy's strength is recognizing everything pre-snap and knowing where he wants to go. And Martindale did a great job of disguising coverages and bringing pressure from places that he wasn't expecting. And that's, why he started 5 of 14. But I think if Brandon Aiyuk was in there, I think he would have had a better game and a better start to his game. And so, I think last night was a good example of why Brandon Aiyuk is important to this team.
Yeah, they need to beat Dallas. They need to beat the Eagles. That's what the Niners are looking at right now. They need to beat those teams to get to the Super Bowl. Was he 5 of 14 or 5 of 11? I had him 5 of 11 to start. I don't know that it matters, but
I saw a stat somewhere that was 5 of 14, but
okay. It was one of those
again,
two.
that could be wrong. Yeah, somewhere around there.
But yeah, they need, and I think that's a good point. They're going to need Aiyuk against that Dallas defense and against the Philly defense, and he makes a big difference for sure. I agree. I think he's, by the end of the year, we're going to be talking about him as a top 10 receiver in the league. I really believe that. Wanted to recognize McCaffrey too, who is the odds-on favorite right now.
That guy's pretty good.
Offensive. He's okay. I think it's safe to say he's okay. Odds-on favorite right now for Offensive Player of the Year. So he scored a touchdown last night. It's the 12th consecutive game, which ties Jerry Rice for the team record. But since 1990, the most consecutive games with a touchdown are Emmitt Smith with 14. And then Smith had another streak of 13, along with Arian Foster, who also had 13. And then LaDainian Tomlinson and McCaffrey have 12. And obviously McCaffrey is 12 and counting. So he is getting into some pretty rare air right now. And if he gets a touchdown in 3 more games in a row, he'll be tops in that regard right now. What he's done is incredible in this offense.
Can you imagine a situation where Christian McCaffrey doesn't score a touchdown in a game? I can't imagine one right now. And that's not being hyperbolic. I'm just saying this offense is built around him. So I think he could obliterate that, that record, as long as, with anything with this team,
I could see a 20 touchdown season for him this year. He really could end up the Offensive Player of the Year in the system. And Kyle really seems intent to, like you said, build that offense around him and get him as many touches as possible. And it's awesome, man. He's perfect for the system. Like I said on the last show, they probably want to go back in time and veto this trade, the NFL, because it's a cheat code with Kyle. So, and Kyle too, Brian. Kyle is now 45 and 24 since the start of 2019 in the regular season. 45 and 24. He's got 6 playoff wins in that span, and 3 of his assistants have become head coaches. It's pretty damn good, man.
It's pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, so he can treat his quarterbacks, I guess, as poorly as he wants to when he's sick of them. Like I said before, I don't even think, for as fired up as we get about stuff, and that's part of being a fan, I don't think any of it matters anymore. No. I think this team is so good that, again, Kyle Shanahan can go around knocking old people over in his free time. I just don't think I don't think it matters. I don't. This team is really well coached. They have talent everywhere. They can do things how, he can do what the hell he wants to basically right now, because he's just a top tier coach in the league. He's got to get the Super Bowl, because there's guys right now who have the ring. McVay could say, "You're a great coach. I know you beat me during the regular season. I got the ring still." Once Kyle gets that, he's going to shoot up into a different stratosphere. And right now, I'm saying it, man, I'm so bullish on this team if they stay healthy. I haven't felt this way about a 49ers team, man, maybe since the 90s, dude. Seriously, I feel better about them than the 2019 team. I maybe even feel better about this team than I did the 2013 team, 2012, than those 2 teams. So the sky is just the limit. And
I think the difference, I feel like the difference between this team and the 2019 team is that 2019 team was dominant in the start of the season, 8-0, and they were a lot of fun, but there were I'm not gonna say there were no expectations going into that season, but we didn't know what to expect going into that season. Jimmy was coming off an injury, all of it. 2018 was so bad, once Jimmy went down, and excited. I mean, you went into a season after having earned the number 2 overall pick. Like, you're not going in with high expectations. This season, they went in with sky high expectations, and all they've done so far is just meet them.
Live up to
And
it.
that's where I feel like it feels different, because it's one thing to be expected to be dominant. It's another thing to be expected to be dominant and then be dominant, especially in a league like the NFL. You look at the Bengals. The Bengals are 0-2 right now, right? No one expected the Bengals to be 0-2. Part of that has to do with Burrow's injury,
out.
and it's not, he's not right, and he re-aggravated it on Sunday, so he may not even play on Monday. We don't know, but the Bengals are 0-2. Pittsburgh was 1-1, but hasn't looked great. The Chiefs haven't looked like as dominant. The only 2 teams that really were expected to be really good this season and have just met or exceeded those expectations right now are the 49ers and the Cowboys.
Yeah, right now they look like the best 2 teams. Right, yeah. I thought the AFC was going to be way better than the NFC, but right now it looks like it's Niners, Cowboys, and I don't want to count the Eagles out. I don't want to count them out at all.
Certainly not.
They're going to be there. They're going to get better.
They just haven't looked as impressive as the 49ers and the Cowboys so far.
Yeah, I think their Eagles schedule is pretty tough. So I see Dallas winning that division, and I think that NFC Championship is going to be the Niners and Dallas. I'd be pretty surprised. But you made a good point off air. You were talking about the adjustments that not only Kyle Shanahan makes, but Steve Wilks has made in the past 2 games when the defense, especially last week, the defense didn't look very good, and those are adjustments. I thought you made some good points. I want to give you a chance to kind of hit on those.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and the defense was dominant from start to finish against the Steelers in week 1. I mean, the Steelers scored 7 points. Like, it was just a dominant performance. And then they came out against the Rams, and I think partly because of expectation, like who's on the Rams outside of Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, who was injured, and Aaron Donald, right? I think a lot of fans expected that to be a cakewalk, and the Rams really gave it all that they could with the 49ers, especially in that first half. And I know for me, watching that game, there was a frustration level that was building with just how much the Rams were kind of dictating to the 49ers defense in that first half. And it felt a little bit like that again in this game against the Giants, right? The Giants hadn't scored a single point in the first half of a game that they played this season, and they scored 3 on their first drive. And their first drive was a long drive. I think it was 11 plays or something like that. They held them to 3 points, which was awesome. But throughout the first half, and then the Giants again scored a touchdown in the second quarter, and you're thinking to yourself, this offense is awful. Like, why is the defense playing this way? And I started to think about it, and one of the things that I was most impressed with DeMeco Ryans was always his halftime adjustments. And through 3 weeks now, not including week 1, because there wasn't many adjustments to make, but through 3 weeks, Steve Wilks is displaying some of that same strategy, right? Where you go into halftime and you come out and you've made adjustments, and this defense has been really suffocating in the second half against the Rams, forced 2 turnovers against Matthew Stafford in the second half, and then also forced another turnover against the Giants in the second half this game. And Kyle Shanahan, as an offensive play caller, he puts his script together, and in my opinion, the first quarter for Kyle Shanahan is a fact-finding mission. If they score points on the drives that they have, great. That's gravy to Kyle Shanahan. But more than that, what Kyle wants to do in the first quarter is get as much information as possible out of the opposing defense so that he knows how to attack its weaknesses later in the game, which is why this team has always been a second half team, both in games and arguably in the season. The offense typically starts off slow. They haven't started off slow this season. 30 points in 3 straight games. Impressive. But, he'll throw out as tons of formations, tons of pre-snap motions, right? All in an effort to get as much information as possible so that he can come back to that same formation and that same pre-snap motion later in the game and then do something just a little bit different to attack you because of how you defended it before. And I don't know if this is it just wears off on his defensive coordinators, or if there's a concerted effort by Shanahan to kind of have the same philosophy on the defensive side of the ball. But it certainly feels like, at least with Steve Wilkes and with DeMeco Ryans as well, they're kind of doing that with the defense in the first half. And what I mean by that is they'll come out in the first half and they'll just kind of play their base defense. They'll get in their wide nine, they'll play their zones, they'll see essentially how successful their defensive line can be in getting to the quarterback, creating pressure, things like that. And if they're not in the first half, then in the second half, they come out and they start dialing up more pressures, which I think is more a Steve Wilkes thing than it was a DeMeco Ryans thing. DeMeco didn't blitz a lot. Wilkes has started to blitz more, but only if they're not getting the pressure that they like. And then they'll also start to switch up coverages and things like that. And so I'm interested to see, as we move forward and we go to Arizona and we look at Cowboys in week 5, right? I'm going to keep an eye on that in the first half and see, hey, is this what he's doing? Is he kind of, is he playing vanilla in the first half so he knows how to essentially suffocate the offense in the second half? And then the other thing I'll be interested in is, you know, if when they go up against a team that challenges them, let's say like the Cowboys in week 5, if the Cowboys take a lead in the first half or whatever, going to halftime, you know, are those adjustments going to happen earlier? Are they going to happen in the first half, or is it still going to be, we're going to ride it out to the second half and then make those adjustments? I don't know, but I will say that I think what I'm beginning to realize more than anything is, you know, you look at DeMeco Ryans and that defense in Houston, and it's not great. And then you looked at Robert Saleh and his defense with New York his first 2 seasons, and it's like, man, it's not all that great. And it just really goes to show the amount of talent on the defensive side of the ball for the San Francisco 49ers is outrageous. And that really is what matters most. It's the players that play. And Wilkes is going to put them in position to succeed, but largely this defense is going to be good because those players are just really, really, really good.
And I was looking this morning. So the Niners, we're recording this on a Friday. Obviously, week 3 hasn't happened for everyone else yet. And the Niners are still 11th in the league in total defense, points given up. And they've played one more game than everybody else.
Right.
And they're 11th currently. So after the weekend, Dallas is only giving up 10 points this year. They'll still probably be number 1, but the Niners will likely be number 2 in points allowed. They've only had 1 turnover this year that they've committed, and they've forced 5. So that's pretty damn good right now. You're plus 4. And they're second in the league in scoring at the moment. Or no, I'm sorry, third at 30 points a game. So they're still going to be right up there in points scored, and you're right up there in points allowed. It's a pretty good combination when you're putting up 30 a game and you're only giving up 12.
30 a game through 3 games. Those other 2 teams that are ahead of them is whatever they've scored in 2 games.
Well, that's average. Yeah, that's average. I'm averaging.
Right.
So it's like per game.
That's what I'm saying.
So who knows what they're going to do? Yeah.
Who's first and second right now?
First is, I think might have been the Cowboys one. I got to go back and look. Hold on. Yeah, Cowboys are averaging 35 a game. Packers are averaging 31 a game. I don't think that's going to continue. And then the Niners and the Dolphins are at 30 a game. Eagles 29, Chargers 29. So that's the top.
Yeah. So, you know, the Cowboys have scored 70 points in 2 weeks, and the the Packers have scored, you said
31.
31. Okay. So 62 points in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So in order for the Packers to stay at 31, they're going to need to put up another 31 points. And in order for the Cowboys to stay at 35, they're going to have to put up another 35 points. So I don't see that happening. Maybe, but I don't see it happening, which means I think the 49ers could end up, well, and we'll see what Miami does, but I think the 49ers will end up first or second, probably.
It's possible. But I'll tell you what, man, the Cowboys have the Cardinals and the Patriots coming up. Those should be 2 wins for them. And the Niners have the Cardinals coming up. So that game, and I'm trying not to jump ahead. There's still another couple weeks to play here, but that game against the Cowboys, if both of those teams going 4-0 and it looks that way, it's just going to be a gigantic game. I cannot wait to watch.
When do the Cowboys play the Patriots?
The Cowboys play the Patriots week 4
after San Francisco, right?
before. So they have the Cardinals this week, and then they have the Patriots.
Oh, Cardinals. Okay, that's right. The
And
Thursday
then
threw me off. Thursday threw
yeah,
me
and
off.
then they play the Niners at
week 5.
This is the Sunday night game, right? Yeah, Sunday night. So
excited
that's
to see
just
that
going to
game.
be. I mean, I can't wait to see the ratings for that game. Probably going to be ridiculous.
It's going to be outrageous. Yeah.
The NFL. How happy is the NFL right now that the Niners and the Cowboys are this?
Oh,
Like,
they're
that's
thrilled.
what you want.
They're so juiced.
Praying for it for the playoffs. I mean, it gives you
Yeah.
it gives you early 1990s vibes. It's really fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hate the Cowboys, man. Cowboys and Giants. I hate
with
them.
a passion.
I hate them.
With a passion.
Yeah, both of those teams have broke my heart way too much. So, all right, Brian, you got anything else, or we out of here?
No, I just again, if for whatever reason you are a 49er fan and you are listening to this and you are still on the fence about Brock Purdy, I think it's time for you to climb down. And like you said, he's gonna have some games. I mean, last game, right, against the Rams, not great, didn't throw any touchdowns or whatever. And maybe you consider that a bad game, but this offense is putting up 30 points a game, man. Literally, and it's just the offense. They haven't scored a special teams touchdown. They haven't scored a defensive touchdown. So even that Cowboys stat is a little misleading because 14 of those points are special teams and defense. So they aren't really scoring 35 points a game on offense, meaning that the 49ers offense has performed better. But yeah, again, game after game, he just continues to check boxes, continues to just be really, really impressive. And I think it's time to really start to look at Brock Purdy and say, I think he's the real deal.
Just enjoy it, you clowns. Just enjoy it. I'm the most pessimistic person in the world, and I'm like, this team's awesome. There's nothing to complain about right now. So just enjoy it, have fun. It's going to be like a 12-13 win season, and then we'll sweat when the playoffs come. There's no need to sweat until then. I don't think so. So
agreed.
All right, man. We're out of here. For Brian, I'm Al.
Later.